Ethan Cole was never late. As the CEO of a global luxury hotel chain, his days were calculated down to the second. Every meeting, every handshake, every deal, all orchestrated with military precision. That morning in Chicago, dressed in a navy blue tailored suit and gripping his phone with one hand while adjusting his cufflink with the other, Ethan stepped through the gleaming glass doors of the Cole Grand Hotel, the crown jewel of his empire. He was 7 minutes behind schedule. His assistant, Marissa, followed closely behind, whispering updates about the boardroom, the Japanese investors waiting upstairs, and the reporters already stationed in the lobby. Ethan's jaw tightened, eyes locked ahead, steps fast and unwavering. He hated the feeling of being off course. Then it happened. Two little girls stepped into his path right in the center of the marble-floored lobby. Identical, about 7 years old. Matching backpacks, worn sneakers, and bright eyes that blinked up at him with a mix of certainty and innocence. "Daddy," one of them said. "We found you," the other added, holding up a crumpled envelope. The air changed. Phones dropped. Conversations stopped. Executives paused mid-step. Even the concierge's hands froze above the keyboard. Ethan stopped cold. Time didn't just slow, it vanished. All he could hear was the pounding in his chest and the echo of the word, "Daddy." One of the girls, the taller one with a scrape on her knee, stepped forward and handed him the envelope. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened it. Inside was a photo. A much younger Ethan, arms around a woman with chestnut hair and a soft smile. Rachel Moore. He hadn't seen her since that business conference in Denver more than 7 years ago. He had no idea she'd been pregnant. His breath caught in his throat. His instincts screamed to move, to fix, to control, to command the situation. But his body didn't listen. Marissa leaned in, whispering urgently, "Mr. Cole, we need to keep moving. The investors—" But Ethan didn't hear her. The girls stared up at him, unaware of the chaos they'd just unleashed, unaware of how many lives would shift from this one moment. The press cameras began clicking. Someone whispered his name. Security moved forward hesitantly, unsure if this was a threat or a family reunion. Ethan finally managed a word. "Where's your mother?" "At the other hotel," said the girl with dimples. "We were supposed to wait, but we saw your picture in the lobby, so we came." He swallowed. "You came here? Alone?" They nodded. He looked around. The investors, the media, the whispers, the judgment. Ethan Cole, billionaire hotel magnate, was being called daddy by two complete strangers in front of the entire industry. But it didn't feel like a scandal. Not in that moment. It felt like the ground had opened beneath him, and instead of falling, something inside him cracked. He crouched down, knees protesting beneath his expensive slacks. "Your names?" he asked softly. "Emma," said the taller one. "Chloe?" added the other, gripping his tie like it was a lifeline. He didn't know what he was supposed to say. He didn't know what this meant, but he knew he couldn't just walk away. "Come with me," he said gently. "Let's find your mom." Rachel Moore was staying at a budget hotel a few blocks away. Nothing like the polished empire Ethan lived in. When she opened the door and saw him standing there with Emma and Chloe at his side, her expression shifted from confusion to shock to anger in seconds. "You found him?" she asked the girls, voice breaking. "We did," Chloe said proudly. "He's real." Rachel stared at Ethan. "I never meant for them to—" He raised a hand. "We need to talk." Inside, the room was modest. One bed, two little backpacks on the floor, a stack of library books on the nightstand. Ethan scanned it all silently. It wasn't what he'd imagined. Then again, he'd never imagined this at all. Rachel stood with her arms crossed. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want anything from you. I didn't want pity or obligations. They're my daughters. They're mine, Ethan, for 7 years. Every scraped knee. Every night they couldn't sleep. Every school meeting. I raised them without a dime from you." He looked at the girls now curled on the bed, flipping through a book as if this day were just another adventure. "I didn't know," he said. "But I do now." Rachel's voice was colder. "So? You're going to throw money at the problem and walk away feeling better?" He shook his head. "No, I'm going to show up." For the first time in his life, Ethan didn't have a plan. No calendar entry. No assistant whispering reminders. Just two girls who'd called him Daddy in front of the world. And changed everything. Ethan sat alone in the back of his black SUV, parked across the street from a small elementary school. His driver waited quietly in the front, eyes fixed forward, trained not to speak unless spoken to. Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't stop staring. The school was modest. Nothing about it screamed prestige. A cracked basketball court, faded yellow lines on the pavement, kids laughing, backpacks bouncing. Among them were Emma and Chloe, indistinguishable from the rest, yet unmistakable to him. He watched as Chloe ran ahead, nearly tripping over her untied shoelace. Emma stopped, bent down, and tied it for her without being asked. A simple gesture, but something about it made Ethan's throat tighten. "Would you like me to wait, sir?" the driver asked. "No. I'll walk." It was the first time Ethan had canceled a conference call without hesitation. The girls were excited to show him everything. The classroom, their lockers, even the cafeteria menu for the week. Ethan didn't belong in this world. The height of his usual involvement in anything child-related was the occasional charity gala. But here, among glitter glue projects and construction paper hearts taped to the walls, he felt small, in a way that humbled him. Rachel stood a few feet away, arms folded again, but less out of defense and more habit. "They like you," she said. "I'm still not sure why." "They don't know you're a CEO. They just think you have cool hair and smell expensive." Ethan smirked. "At least I'm winning somewhere." Rachel softened. The tension between them hadn't vanished, but it had settled into something more complicated. Less fire, more weight. He looked at her. "You did a good job, with them." She didn't smile, but her eyes flicked downward. Acknowledgement without words. Ethan started rearranging his life. It began with small things: breakfast video calls instead of morning briefings, blocking out weekends on his schedule, installing a second phone just for the girls to reach him. Emma would text pictures of her art. Chloe would send voice notes asking if Ethan ever ate pizza in his office. He replied to every message. One afternoon, the girls visited his penthouse. He had the chef prepare a kid-friendly menu, complete with smiley face pancakes and rainbow sprinkles. They spilled juice on his Italian rug, knocked over an antique globe, and asked if his giant bed was made for jumping. He let them. That night, after the girls had fallen asleep in the guest room, Rachel stood by the doorway watching Ethan quietly clean up. "I didn't expect this," she admitted. "Neither did I. I still don't know if I can trust you." "I don't expect you to." She hesitated. "But they do. Instantly. I'm trying not to fail them." Rachel nodded, then added softly, "Good. Because they've had 7 years of learning how to live without you." Time passed. Ethan's team learned to adapt. Meetings were pushed back. He began to take walks, read bedtime stories over FaceTime, attend school fairs, always under a baseball cap and sunglasses, blending in with the crowd. At first, it was chaos. But slowly, the man who used to control everything began learning to release it. During a parent-teacher conference, the teacher mentioned how the girls talked about their new dad. The way they described him, smart, a little strict, but funny and kind, caught Ethan off guard. He'd spent years being feared and respected, but rarely loved. One day, while walking hand in hand with Emma and Chloe through a park, Chloe asked, "What were you doing before you met us?" Ethan paused. "I thought I was working." Emma frowned. "All the time?" "Yeah." "That sounds boring," she said. He laughed. It was. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan Cole didn't feel like a man pretending to be something he wasn't. He felt like a father figuring it out one messy, imperfect, beautiful day at a time. The first real conflict didn't come from Rachel or the girls. It came from the board. A week before the annual shareholders' summit, Ethan received an email marked urgent. Attached was a compiled report from the PR department. It detailed the media frenzy surrounding the CEO daddy drama, as tabloids were calling it. Headlines ranged from mysterious twins, crash CEO's empire, to billionaire's hidden family exposed in hotel lobby scandal. Some investors were concerned. A few were furious. During an emergency meeting, one board member said bluntly, "Your personal life has become a distraction, Ethan." "I disagree," Ethan replied, calm but firm. "It's become a priority." They didn't appreciate the answer. Afterward, Marissa pulled him aside. "They're not used to this version of you. They want the Ethan who closed a multi-million-dollar deal during a kidney stone." Ethan exhaled. "I don't want to be that guy anymore." "Well, the board still does." Back at Rachel's, the tension surfaced again. "I told you they'd come for you," she said, arms crossed as she paced the living room. "They didn't come for me," Ethan replied. "They came for control, and they're not getting it." Rachel shook her head. "You've known these girls for barely 2 months. Are you ready to lose everything for them?" Ethan looked toward the hallway where giggles echoed from the bedroom. "I'm not losing anything," he said. "I'm finally gaining something." Rachel didn't argue further, but her expression warned him. Love didn't erase consequences. Things escalated when a tabloid paparazzo ambushed Chloe and Emma outside their school. The man had pretended to be a delivery driver. He snapped photos before security intervened. Rachel was livid. "You said you could protect them," she shouted. "I can. They're not your brand, Ethan. They're children. They shouldn't have to hide because some man with a camera wants to sell their faces to gossip sites." "I know. I'm fixing it." "How? With money? With lawyers?" "No, with change." Ethan filed a lawsuit. Not for image control, for child protection. He hired a team of private security for Rachel's building. He withdrew from 3 international business trips, and most shockingly to the press, he stepped down from his position as CEO. Temporarily. In the statement he said, "No company matters more than the people who change your life. I'll return when I've earned the title my daughters gave me, Dad." The world reacted. Some ridiculed, some applauded. But for the first time in his career, Ethan didn't care what they thought. Meanwhile, the girls started to test him more directly. One night, Emma asked, "Did you love Mommy when you met her?" Ethan hesitated. "I didn't know her long enough to say that." "Do you love her now?" He looked into her eyes. "I care about her, and I'm very grateful she brought you and Chloe into this world." Chloe chimed in from across the room. "You should marry her." Rachel, who had overheard from the kitchen, nearly choked on her tea. Later that night, Rachel confronted him. "You need to stop giving them fairy tales. This isn't some movie." "I'm not giving them anything but truth. They're getting attached." "So am I." She blinked, caught off guard. "I'm not asking for a second chance," Ethan said. "I'm asking to not be written out before I've had a chance to prove myself." Rachel's defenses cracked. Not gone, but softened. One rainy evening, Ethan took the girls to a bookstore. They picked out silly chapter books and a puzzle set. As they walked home, Chloe stopped him on the sidewalk. "You used to be really busy, right?" "Very. But now you're not." "I still have a lot to do." She frowned. "You're not going to disappear, are you?" Ethan knelt, umbrella forgotten as the rain soaked through his jacket. "I'll always be here now, I promise," Emma whispered. "Even if you're not a CEO anymore?" He smiled. "Being your dad is the best title I've ever had." At that moment, the lights from a nearby bakery flickered on, and the girls pulled him inside, dragging him to a table full of cupcakes and laughter. Ethan didn't know what the board would do next, or how the lawsuit would play out, or if the world would ever forget the scandal. But for the first time in his adult life, he was okay with not knowing. Because finally, something else mattered more. Ethan's transition into a more grounded life wasn't seamless. With the spotlight dimming from headlines and court updates, the quieter battles began. Not in the boardroom, but in the messy, emotional in-betweens of building a real connection. He'd always seen things in terms of efficiency and outcome. But children operated on a different clock. A slower, deeper rhythm where everything was felt, not calculated. At first, Emma and Chloe competed for his attention. Emma wanted structured time, puzzles, plans, organizing her dolls by color. Chloe thrived on chaos. Unannounced tickle fights and storytelling marathons with no end in sight. Rachel noticed the shift too. "They're adapting," she said one afternoon as they folded laundry together. "But you need to be careful." "I am," Ethan replied, sorting socks like contracts. "No, you're trying to be equal. But they don't need equal. They need to feel seen in their own way." That stayed with him. One Saturday, Ethan planned a solo outing with Emma, a science museum filled with interactive exhibits and quiet corners. She lit up when she talked about constellations, explained the phases of the moon like a junior astronaut. The following weekend it was Chloe's turn, an open-air craft market where they painted, spilled glitter, and Ethan let her pick out matching bracelets. Hers read, "Sparkle Queen." His read, "Glitter Dad." When Rachel saw it, she nearly dropped her coffee laughing. "You wore that? In public?" "With pride," Ethan said. They shared a look that wasn't flirtation but wasn't far from something warmer than memory. Meanwhile, Ethan's absence at work created ripples. His interim replacement, a younger executive named Garrett, began shifting priorities at Cole International, a new luxury project in Dubai. One Ethan had originally vetoed, was suddenly moving forward. Ethan's closest allies in the company warned him subtly that his influence was fading. "You knew this could happen," Rachel said. "I did, but it doesn't mean I have to like it." "So what now?" "I wait, and I focus on what's mine to protect." Around this time, Rachel received a job offer from another city. A marketing director role at a mid-sized firm in Boston. "It's stable, flexible, better benefits," she told Ethan, avoiding his eyes. He said nothing at first. Then, "Are you thinking of taking it?" "I have to consider it." "And the girls?" "They'd come with me, obviously." Ethan looked down. "That's 5 states away." Rachel sighed. "I wasn't planning this, but life moves, and I don't want to stay just because you're trying." Ethan's voice was low. "I'm not just trying, Rachel. I'm changing." She nodded. "But change doesn't undo the past." "No, but it builds the future." She didn't respond. Later that week, Emma asked if their dad could come to her classroom's Superstar Parent Day. She was supposed to introduce someone special who made her feel proud. Ethan cleared his schedule without hesitation. He stood in a too-small chair in front of 20 second graders, reading "Where the Wild Things Are" with dramatic voices. Chloe giggled from the back of the room. Emma beamed the entire time. Afterward, the teacher handed him a card Emma had written. "You're not like the other dads, but I'm glad you're mine." That night, Ethan sat in his parked car, reading the card again and again until the parking meter expired. Rachel eventually turned down the job. Not because of Ethan, but because the girls were finally sleeping through the night without asking where their dad was. "I'm still watching you," she warned him. "Good," Ethan replied. I want to be worth watching. They weren't a couple. Not yet. But they were building something far more important first. A foundation. Something neither of them had ever truly known. Something slow, unglamorous, and real. The invitation arrived in a silver envelope with embossed lettering. Inside it read, Lifetime Achievement Award Ceremony, honoring Ethan Cole. It was set to take place at the Crystal Hall in Manhattan. Black tie, televised, and attended by the most powerful names in global hospitality. The irony wasn't lost on Ethan. He was being honored for building an empire, just months after stepping away from it. Garrett, now firmly in the interim CEO seat, had called to say, They want you back. This is their olive branch. Ethan stared at the card for a long time. That night, during dinner with the girls and Rachel, Emma asked, Are you going to the award thing? Do you want me to? Ethan asked. She shrugged. Will it make you happy? Before he could answer, Chloe added, You promised you'd come to our school show that day. Ethan froze. He didn't realize it was the same date. Rachel, sitting across from him, immediately noticed the shift. You have to go to New York? It's not that simple. It never is. Later that evening, Rachel found him sitting alone in the living room, envelope in hand. You told me once you never let anyone else write your story, she said quietly. This isn't just about me. Exactly. He looked up. You think that award means you did something great. But those girls? They already think that. Every time you show up, every time you call. You've already won, Ethan. He looked down. I never wanted them to see me as someone who breaks promises. Then don't. The morning of the recital, the hotel's press office buzzed with confusion. Reporters asked where Ethan was. Some speculated he'd show up late in a dramatic entrance. The camera crews waited. He never arrived. Instead, Ethan Cole sat in a creaky auditorium seat, tucked among rows of parents wearing a hoodie and baseball cap. His phone buzzed with calls from Garrett, from the event organizers, from sponsors. He didn't answer any of them. On stage, a tiny paper banner read, Stars of Second Grade. When Emma and Chloe walked out in sparkly headbands and nervous smiles, Ethan's breath caught. They spotted him instantly. Chloe waved wildly. Emma mouthed, Hi, Daddy, before turning to face the crowd. Ethan had closed billion-dollar deals, negotiated with foreign governments, built skyscrapers. But watching his daughters sing a slightly off-key version of This Little Light of Mine was the most significant moment of his life. After the recital, parents and kids gathered outside with cupcakes and juice boxes. Chloe smeared frosting on his nose. Emma dragged him over to meet her friends. This is my dad, she said proudly. He came even though he's famous. Ethan laughed. Retired famous. One of the moms leaned over. You really gave up that award to be here? He nodded. Wouldn't miss this for the world. Rachel watched from a distance, arms folded again, but this time the stance wasn't defensive. It was full of something else. Maybe trust. The real turning point came later that night. The girls had fallen asleep at Rachel's. Ethan stayed to help clean up after dinner, something that had quietly become a habit. Rachel handed him a glass of wine and sat beside him on the couch. You know they talk about you like you're a superhero, she said. I'm definitely not. They say you listen, that you show up, that you laugh even when their jokes are terrible. He smiled. They have a good writer. Rachel hesitated. You've changed. I had to. No, Ethan, you didn't have to. That's the point. You chose to. There was silence between them. Not heavy, just honest. Then she added, They aren't the only ones who see it. He turned toward her. And you? What do you see? She looked away. Someone I don't know how to protect myself from anymore. He reached over, gently taking her hand. Then maybe I'll protect you this time. Rachel didn't pull away. They sat like that until the house grew quiet. The man who once ran from anything permanent now longed for the very things he'd avoided his whole life. And the woman who built walls out of necessity let one of them fall. The following week, headlines swirled again, but this time with a different tone. Ethan Cole skips industry award to attend daughter's school recital. From CEO to full-time father, Ethan Cole's new legacy. The media shift was subtle but powerful. Critics who once mocked him were now calling it a rebranding masterstroke. PR analysts speculated whether it was all strategic. But Ethan didn't care. For the first time in his career, the noise didn't matter. Garrett, now fully in the spotlight, called him days later. "You know," he said with a chuckle, "this whole family man thing? It's playing surprisingly well." "I'm not playing anything," Ethan replied. Garrett paused. "You're not coming back, are you?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Not yet." Internally, Ethan still wrestled with what he'd left behind. Every instinct told him to manage, to correct, to fix. But fatherhood didn't operate on deadlines. There were no spreadsheets to solve Emma's sudden fear of thunder, or Chloe's growing frustration with math homework. One night, during a particularly bad storm, Emma snuck into his room clutching a pillow. "Do you miss your big office?" she asked. "Sometimes," he admitted. "Even more than us?" He pulled her close. Not even close. Rachel began to include him in more of their everyday life. Not just school events or dinners, but errands, routines, the mundane rhythm of a home built on stability. Ethan learned how to pack lunchboxes, read allergy labels, and braid pigtails, poorly. During one grocery run, Chloe asked, "Were you scared when we showed up at the hotel?" Ethan smiled. "Terrified. But you didn't look scared." "I've had a lot of practice pretending." She seemed to think about that. "You don't pretend now." "No," he said. "Now I just try." The dynamic between Ethan and Rachel began to shift again, slowly and carefully. One night after the girls were asleep, Rachel offered him a drawer in the hallway dresser. "For toothbrushes, pajamas, whatever," she said, almost casually. Ethan accepted without a word, but he looked at that drawer like it held gold. It wasn't romantic in the traditional sense. There was no grand kiss or dramatic declaration. Just quiet trust, growing in layers neither of them had expected. A few weeks later, the board sent a formal letter requesting Ethan's opinion on a proposed company expansion. It wasn't a demand. It was an invitation. He read the entire proposal over coffee at Rachel's kitchen table, with Chloe building a Lego city beside him and Emma quizzing him on spelling words. In the margin of the final page, he wrote one sentence. "I built a legacy once. Now I'm building something better." He handed the envelope to Marissa the next day. "Send it. But tell them I'm not coming back full-time." "You're really choosing this life?" she asked. He looked out the window at the playground across the street where the girls were waiting. "No, I'm finally living it." The man who once prided himself on being unreachable had become the most present person in the lives that mattered most. And slowly, the world around him stopped asking why he stepped away, and started admiring what he stepped into. Spring came early that year. Chicago's gray gave way to streaks of sunlight, and Ethan found himself walking more. To the girls' school, the bakery down the street, even to the park without checking his watch. One Saturday morning, Chloe asked if she could ride her bike without training wheels. Emma chimed in, demanding to try as well, not to be left behind. Rachel looked hesitant, but Ethan smiled. "Let's do it." They spent hours in the park. Ethan jogged behind them, catching them when they tipped, cheering when they stayed up. By late afternoon, both girls were pedaling on their own, wind in their hair and laughter echoing. Rachel sat on the bench, arms crossed against the breeze, but there was no tension in her shoulders, just quiet amazement. "You're good with them," she said as Ethan approached. "I never thought I would be. You were just never given the chance." Nay. In the months that followed, Ethan started teaching himself how to live without control. At first it was uncomfortable. Not micromanaging homework time, not correcting every little thing, not responding to every email within 10 minutes. But eventually that discomfort turned into clarity. The girls didn't need a perfect dad. They needed a consistent one who showed up, made pancakes even when they were burned, answered hard questions even when it hurt. One who said, "I'm sorry," and "I'm proud of you," with equal ease. At one point, Rachel fell sick. It was just the flu, but the girls panicked. Ethan stayed over for 3 nights straight, making soup, running baths, reading bedtime stories solo. Chloe cried once in the hallway, whispering, "What if Mommy doesn't get better?" Ethan pulled her into a hug. "She will, but even if things get hard, I'll be here, I promise." Chloe didn't say anything back, just buried her face into his chest and held on tight. Eventually, Ethan was offered a new opportunity, not to return as CEO, but to join the company board in an advisory role. Remote, flexible, selective. He considered it carefully, not from a place of ego, but from alignment. Could he still be present? Could he still be the dad who helped with science projects and folded laundry and danced badly to school musical rehearsals? He called Marissa. "Accept the offer," he said. "But tell them I don't work weekends." She laughed. "You really have changed." "No," he replied, smiling. "I finally started living." Rachel watched all of this unfold with cautious optimism. She didn't say much, didn't make promises, but she didn't hold back either. Their rhythm became easy: shared drop-offs, impromptu dinners, honest conversations over wine after the girls were asleep. One night, while they sorted boxes in the hallway closet, Ethan pulled out an old shoebox filled with baby photos. "Were you ever going to tell me?" he asked gently, holding up a picture of Emma in a sunflower onesie. Rachel didn't flinch. "I thought about it. A lot. But I was scared you'd do the right thing for the wrong reason." "I might have," he admitted. "Back then. But not now." "No," he said. "Now I'm staying because I want to." She looked at him, and this time there was no guard left. Just truth. "I'm glad they found you," she whispered. "So am I," he said. And he meant it. The girls continued to grow. Chloe took up painting. Emma joined the school's chess club. Ethan became the parent who packed messy lunches, forgot picture day once, and learned how to make papier-mâché volcanoes for science fairs. He made mistakes, forgot to sign permission slips, burned more than a few dinners, accidentally washed a crayon with their clothes. But he never stopped showing up. He was learning, stumbling, evolving. Not as a CEO, but as a father. And the girls, in return, gave him something he never expected: grace. Not because he was perfect, but because he tried, every day, to be better than the one before. By early summer, the girls' world had shifted from uncertain to grounded. They had a rhythm: weekdays with Rachel, weekends with Ethan, shared holidays, and overlapping moments that blurred old boundaries. But one unexpected letter threatened to unravel it. A summons from family court. Rachel's ex-boyfriend, Kyle, who had briefly dated her years ago, had filed a petition for visitation rights, claiming he'd acted as a father figure during the girl's infancy. Ethan read the document in silence. Rachel sat on the opposite side of the kitchen, nervously twisting a teabag string. "He's not their biological father," Ethan said finally. "No," Rachel admitted, "but he helped when they were little. Diapers, midnight bottles. He disappeared when things got hard, but now he wants a piece of them. I don't know why he's doing this." Ethan's voice was low. "I do. It's about control, not love." In the days that followed, tension wrapped tightly around the home. Emma picked up on it first, asking, "Why are you guys mad?" Chloe added, "Did we do something wrong?" Ethan and Rachel quickly reassured them, but the girls weren't easily fooled. They'd lived enough life to sense what wasn't being said. Rachel hesitated to let Ethan get involved legally. "You've fought enough battles," she said. "Maybe this is mine." "No," he replied. "This is ours now." Ethan hired a family lawyer. The process moved fast. Kyle's arguments were flimsy, but the emotional toll was heavy. Chloe had a nightmare one night that someone came to take her away. Ethan held her close until she fell back asleep, and stayed awake for hours after, staring at the ceiling. The court requested a formal evaluation. Interviews, home visits, written reports. Rachel felt exposed. Ethan, too. Their parenting, their history, their choices, all laid bare under scrutiny. Rachel cried once, quietly in the hallway after the evaluator left. "I never wanted them to be in the middle of this." "They're not," Ethan said, gently taking her hand. "They're in the center. There's a difference." Meanwhile, life continued moving forward. The girls prepared for the end-of-year talent show. Chloe wanted to sing. Emma planned to read a poem she'd written about family. One night, she shyly asked Ethan to help her rehearse. "It's about us," she said, handing him a folded sheet of notebook paper. He read the first line. "My family is not perfect, but it's mine." It stopped him cold. He looked up, and Emma simply smiled. "Is it okay if I tell people about you?" Ethan nodded, voice thick. "It's more than okay." The court date approached. So did the talent show. Rachel and Ethan both knew what mattered most wasn't the ruling, or the process, or even Kyle's motives. It was making sure the girls never doubted where they belonged, or who they belonged to. Together they prepared for both battles, one inside a courtroom, and one on a small elementary school stage. Both would prove who Ethan Cole had become, and what, and who, he would fight for now. The courthouse was quieter than Ethan expected. He sat beside Rachel at a polished wooden table, both dressed modestly. No designer suits, no corporate posturing. Just two parents trying to hold on to the life they had built. Across the aisle, Kyle sat with his attorney, arms crossed, eyes avoiding theirs. The judge was firm but fair, a woman in her 50s who had seen too many families break under pressure and pride. She opened the session by asking both sides to explain their intent. Kyle's lawyer went first, outlining how Kyle had once provided support and had an emotional bond with the girls. They submitted photos from years ago, texts exchanged with Rachel when the girls were toddlers. It wasn't much, but enough to raise eyebrows. Then Ethan's attorney stood. "We don't dispute that Mr. Cole only recently learned of the children," she said. "What we submit is that since that day, he has made every decision, every sacrifice, and every change in his life with one goal: to be present, loving, and stable for his daughters." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Cole, would you like to speak for yourself?" Ethan stood slowly. He didn't prepare a speech. "I've spent my life chasing things that seemed important," he began. "Titles, numbers, applause. But the first time those girls called me Daddy, everything I thought I knew about purpose changed." He looked at Rachel, then at the judge. "I can't rewrite the years I missed, but I wake up every day determined to earn the ones ahead. I don't want to replace anyone. I just want to be the father they already believe I am." Silence followed. Even Kyle didn't look up. That same evening at a small school auditorium just a few blocks away, the girls' talent show began. Rachel arrived with the girls ahead of time, helping Chloe adjust her bow and Emma pin her poem to the presentation board. "Where's Daddy?" Chloe asked. "He'll be here," Rachel said, hoping it was true. The show started. First a piano solo, then a dance number. Then a shy boy reciting knock-knock jokes. Finally, it was Emma's turn. She walked on stage, small and still, holding her poem with both hands. "My family is not perfect," she began, voice shaking slightly. "But it's mine." She paused, then smiled. "Sometimes families are made with time, not just blood. My daddy didn't raise me when I was little, but he's here now, and he makes us pancakes and reads books even when he's tired, and says he's proud of me, even when I mess up." Rachel felt her eyes sting. Then the auditorium doors opened quietly. Ethan slipped inside, still in his courthouse clothes. He scanned the crowd, and Emma saw him. Her smile grew wider. "And when I grow up," she finished, "I want to be like him, because he didn't have to love us, but he chose to." Applause broke out. Ethan stood in the back, frozen for a moment. Then slowly he clapped too. After the show, Chloe ran straight into his arms. "You made it!" "Wouldn't miss it." Rachel walked over, eyes glistening. "How'd it go?" she asked. "We won," Ethan said softly. "The case?" "No," he said, pulling her and the girls into a hug. "Something more important." The next day, the court ruling arrived by mail. The judge had ruled in Rachel and Ethan's favor. Kyle's request was denied. But the real victory had already happened. On a stage, in a child's words, and in the silent promises Ethan had made every single day since that moment in the hotel lobby. He folded the court letter and slid it into a drawer. No fanfare, no celebration, just peace. For the first time in his life, Ethan Cole had everything that mattered, and none of it came with a title. Summer melted into early fall, and with it came a quiet stability Ethan had never known. Mornings became his favorite part of the day, not because of stock updates or investor calls, but because of sleepy voices asking for waffles and mismatched socks. His phone still buzzed with board updates and headlines, but more often than not, it stayed face down during breakfast. One Sunday afternoon, Ethan and the girls sat on the living room floor, working on a scrapbook project for school. Photos were scattered everywhere. Their first zoo trip, Chloe's glitter-covered art, Emma grinning with a missing front tooth, Ethan in the middle of it all, hair tousled, eyes soft. Rachel stepped into the room with a laundry basket and paused at the sight. She smiled. "You look settled." "I feel it," Ethan said. She sat beside him, brushing a strand of hair from Chloe's face as she worked. "I used to wonder if letting you in would throw everything off balance," she admitted. "Did it?" "Yes," Rachel said, looking directly at him. "But maybe balance was never the goal. Maybe building something real was." He nodded slowly. "Real's good." Later that week, as they walked home from the park, Chloe slipped her hand into Ethan's. "Do you think you'll still be around when we're big?" she asked. "Bigger than me?" he teased. "Yeah, like married or old or something." "I'll be there," he said. "Wherever you are." Emma, walking just ahead, turned around and said, "Promise?" Ethan stopped walking. "I promise." And this time, it wasn't a vow to prove anything. It was simply the truth. That night, Rachel tucked the girls in while Ethan washed dishes in the kitchen. He heard soft footsteps behind him and turned to find her there, quiet, unsure. "I never expected any of this," she said. "Me neither. I'm glad they found you." He smiled. "They saved me." She stepped closer, and this time, when she leaned into his arms, there were no walls left between them. Just a future, unknown, imperfect, but finally, theirs. Years later, a framed photo sat on Ethan's desk. Not in a corner office, but in a sunlit room filled with art projects and books. It showed Emma and Chloe, mid-laugh, frosting on their cheeks, hugging a man who used to think success came in boardrooms. The girls were older now, taller, wiser. But every weekend, without fail, Ethan made pancakes. And when strangers asked who he was, Chloe still said proudly, That's our dad. He used to run hotels. Now he just runs to us. And Ethan wouldn't have it any other way. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to share it with someone who believes in second chances, in unexpected families, and in the quiet ways love rewrites our lives. Leave a comment below. What part moved you most? Have you ever seen someone change for love? Your story matters too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want more powerful stories like this one. Stories that remind us that the most important title we'll ever hold isn't on a business card, but in someone's heart. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.